I'm always at a loss of what to do with these live videos when nobody's here yet and I just started. That lovely, like 5 minute, gap that YouTube seems to give us. It's not really 5 minutes, it's probably about 30 seconds, right? But it feels like that long. Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? I thought I would do a brief question and answer session today. You got me here for maybe about a half hour. Again, the types, here's kind of like the rules of the road, so to speak. Questions that you ask, they need to be not about your own horoscope. Okay, this isn't me coming here to look at your horoscope for you. So that's not what we're doing. What we are doing, though, however, is coming here to kind of talk to you about astrology for a little bit of time. So you can feel free to ask questions. I'm seeing everybody's doing their precursory hellos. So hello, everybody. If you have any astrological questions, please feel free to ask those astrological questions now. I am visible. You got to refresh your video, okay? Because that's happened a few times as people go into this I'm not visible thing, but really I am, okay? Okay, so here's the thing with Nichabanga and canceling debilitation. And I probably said this a few times. I'm going to say it again, just so people know. A debilitated planet who has its debility canceled, sure, it might work better in some instances. But an important thing to know about a debilitated planet is even though it's creating concrete things as per its, what's the phrase I want to use, as per its house and its responsibilities to the horoscope, it's doing so at a deficit because it's debilitated, right? Also, there are these things called deep Tadyavastas. And with the deep Tadyavasta that's connected to debilitated planets, it makes them feel low. So they might be able to go about creating those things, but they feel really low and miserable while they're doing it. So the thing is with debilitated planets, especially when you're in the dasha period of a debilitated planet, that debilitated planet is going to surface during that time. So whilst a debilitated planet might have its debility canceled and it might be able to be productive as per what it's associated with in the horoscope, it's still going to function like a debilitated planet, which means the individual, in order to create those things that can be created by the planet due to having its debility canceled, it's going to be compensating and working extra hard in order to do that. It's the same if you have a debilitated planet in the 10th house. It will do the same, right? But it's still compensating. So that's an important thing to understand. Okay, so since we've got some people here today, right, in about an hour, right? You thought you were going to get away without the blatant self-promotion, didn't you? But in about an hour, I'm going to be starting a 2-class, and actually I should say 3-class probably webinar series on financial astrology. Okay, a lot of you have requested this before, how to see this in a chart. Here's your chance if you want to sign up for the course. Registration for the course, well, first of all, let me tell you a little bit about the course. Each class is 90 minutes long. Okay, you get a recording of each class. All right, and in addition to that, you have access to the PowerPoints for the course, so you can refer back to them for your notes. We're going to use lots of examples, and as well, if you wish to submit your birth information there, I'm going to, at least with a couple of people who submit their birth information, use those as examples if the person agrees to let me do that. Now, I can't do everybody's, right? But I'm going to do a person or two at the very least. So if you want to register for this course, which starts at 4:30 p.m. London time, it's now 3:20 p.m. London time, what you can do is go to my website, authenticastrology.com. And if you look for the courses link, there's a drop-down menu, and you'll see something, a webinar called Feast or Famine. Okay. And that's the financial astrology webinar course. It's $108 to register for this course. That's actually not a lot considering you're getting like 2 to 3 classes and 90 minutes for each class. Okay. So if you want to be a part of this course, you need to register really soon because I need to get you the information on how to join us in about an hour. So if you want to register for the course, now would be a good time to do so. Okay. And so just to remind you, authenticastrology.com. Okay. So, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to type it over here in the window. Everybody bear with me. I'll put the link over here in the window. I know I'm boring you all, and I am going to answer some of your questions too, right? But just bear with me. I just want to make sure everybody has it because I didn't put it as a pop-up in the video for everybody yet. Because when you become older like me, you forget things like this and you don't really think. You start thinking about going to bed. That's what you begin to fantasize about. You go, oh, gee, sometime in life I'll go to bed. Okay, so here's the link for everybody if you want to register. Okay, and I'll put it in there again a little bit later on for people who might want it. Okay, so let's see what else we've got here in terms of questions. Mars is exalted in Capricorn, but does that apply if it's in the 12th house? An exalted planet is always an exalted planet, regardless of if it's in the 12th house, 3rd house, whatever house it's in, it's still an exalted planet, right? It's how to work with exalted planets that people need to understand a little bit more about. Okay, let's see what else we've got here. Let's talk a little bit about planetary war just briefly. Okay, so planetary war, somewhere along the line, people got lazy with calculating planetary war. And there's a specific way that it's supposed to be calculated that's kind of laid out in Surya Siddhanta. If you have good software, it will calculate it as per Surya Siddhanta. But a lot of people just go, oh, well, if they're within a degree of each other, they're in planetary war. That's not always the case. Why? Because it's based on observational astrology and local space. Okay, so what is that? What do I mean by that, right? So for instance, if you know, oh, there's going to be a Venus-Jupiter conjunction tonight, you go outside, you look up at the sky, and you're expecting to see those two planets right on top of each other. And then you look and you go, well, they're kind of like this. How's that a conjunction? That's because of where you're at on the planet that they're appearing like that. Somewhere else on the planet, they're going to appear right on top of each other. It's a matter of perspective based upon local space. And so there is a specific way that planetary war has to be calculated, but most people don't want to go about doing the calculation. And so they just go, oh, they're within a degree. But sometimes it's not planetary war like that. Sometimes it's planetary war before then too. So you really have to have good software to calculate it appropriately, but it's generally the planet with the lesser degree that loses in planetary war, and its strength its strength in the areas of life that it's associated with tend to get sapped by the planet that wins. Okay? All right, let's see what else we've got here. Okay, so just a reminder, I'm not here to judge your horoscopes for you, okay? And I can tell when people are beginning to do that. Okay, so please don't do that because I'm not going to do it because it's just kind of giving you generalized information about your horoscope. If you want me to look at your horoscope, you can go to my website and schedule a consultation. All right. First of all, somebody asked a question. What does it mean, pardon me, that a stationary planet is most powerful? Can you please explain what that means in real life practically, like Saturn being stationary, for example? Here's the reason that's hard to explain in real life, because it's horoscope specific, okay? One thing that happens when a planet is stationing in the sky, its energy is very still. And it's also one of the brightest planets in the sky, as it is when it's retrograde too. And so its rays become very strong. And so that contributes to its Shadbala. And when its Shadbala is strong, then at least in terms of Chestabala, then it has strong Chestabala or behavioral strength. Okay, that's how it contributes to things. That doesn't mean that that planet that's stationary is going to create like all sorts of wonderful things in your life on the day that it's, you know, transiting in the sky. That depends on all sorts of other things, like your relationship to that planet in your natal chart, your relationship to that planet in the Varga charts, all of those things. So, you know, astrology, it takes a little bit of study, but if you're willing to kind of sink your energy and effort into it, it does return rewards after a while. So some of the questions that people ask, they're good questions, but in order to give answers, I have to go into some really in-depth things that would take longer than just a 5-minute teaching session, or even a half-hour teaching session for that matter. Okay, so let's see what else we've got. If Jupiter Dasha has been difficult, will Saturn Dasha be better? It's not as simple as that. Dashas, a lot of times people have, and this isn't a criticism, a lot of times people have this mindset that a dasha of a certain planet in their Rashi chart will come along and all of a sudden every single area of their life is going to shine and be absolutely wonderful. Okay? But it doesn't really work like that. So let's say, for instance, you might have an exalted Jupiter. Okay, that means overall what Jupiter is associated with on your life path, which is what the Rashi chart signifies, there's going to be some strong energy. But Jupiter might just relate to having a successful relationship for you, right? Okay, and then you go and you look at your Drekana chart. And let's say Jupiter rules the 3rd house there and it's debilitated, right? Well, so you might have really good intimate relationships in your life, but your interaction with your siblings and associates is absolutely horrible, right? So it's not this thing of, oh, here comes a planet, everything is going to be absolutely wonderful in every single area of my life for the next, you know, however many years. It doesn't work like that. You have to kind of look at all the different Varga charts. Some areas will be good, some areas will be difficult, just as life is. Life just generally tends to go like that. Okay. So is Saturn Dasha going to be better if Jupiter Dasha has been difficult? That depends on the strength of your Saturn. If you've got a debilitated Saturn in your chart, then no. Right. So it's yeah, you have to kind of take it in context of the horoscope. That's probably the easiest way to say it. So first of all, there's another question I'm going to answer. I lost it for a moment. Somebody said, is a retrograde planet good or bad when in exaltation? All right. So I say this all the time. So those of you who've seen me can kind of go, oh boy, here we go again. But there's no such thing as a good planet and there's no such thing as a bad planet. Okay. If you think about it on the higher level, all those planets are there for your evolution. They're there for you to grow. They're there for you to prosper from. But we have to learn how to prosper from challenges just as much as we learn how to prosper from the times when things are easy, right? Because it's all about prospering, because prospering means growing closer to your spirit. So on that level, all planets are good. In terms of retrograde planets creating difficult results when exalted, no, retrograde planets are not going to create difficult results when they're exalted. It's just that when planets are retrograde, they're more internalized with their processes, right? We all want, like, you know, God to like drop lots of money in our life and create this in our life, but sometimes we have more internal qualities with the planets, right? So, you know, Mercury, you might not be, if you've got a Mercury that's direct in your chart, you might be, if it's strong, you might be very skilled in a lot of things, right? And skilled in external things. Mercury's retrograde, you might not be quite as skilled in those external things, but that doesn't mean your life is going to suck because you're skilled in the capacity to reflect and use your intuition. So exalted planets always function like exalted planets. Retrograde planets are not necessarily bad either, because if you remember what I said a moment ago, When a planet's retrograde, it has strong chestabala. That makes it stronger in terms of its shadbala. Okay? So again, just a reminder, everyone, in exactly an hour from now, I'm going to be starting my financial astrology webinar course. This course is going to run for at least 2 weeks, most likely 3. The reason I say most likely 3 is I usually say 2 to see if I get through the syllabus in that amount of time, but usually it goes to a 3rd class. Sometimes it's even been known to go to a 4th class. If we go more than the 2 classes, you don't pay anything extra. You're just paying for the 2 classes, right? And this webinar series is, each class is going to be 90 minutes long, and you get a video recording of the class. And you get access to all the PowerPoints for the class, so you can refer back to it, and you can review the videos and review the PowerPoints and really learn how to look at your chart and know when financially abundant times are coming and when the more difficult financial problems are coming. That way you can take advantage of the good times and prepare yourself for the more difficult times, right? Makes sense. Okay, so what you have to do to register is to go to this place I'm going to put in the chat window right now. Okay, but for those of you who are coming along later and seeing this, it's, if you just go to AuthenticAstrology.com and find the courses link, you'll figure out how to register for the course more efficiently. It's $108 for the course. You also get membership to my astrological forum where you can ask questions. Okay, so there we go. I hope that some of you register for the class. If you're going to register, you need to register soon, because I have to get the course information to you. And I'm only here for another 10 or 15 minutes. Okay, let's see what else we've got. Oh, thank you for saying happy birthday. Let's see what we've got here. Yeah, somebody's saying, I think when people say good, bad planet, they mean pleasant, unpleasant. And I know that that's what people mean, but really, we have to think of what astrology is really for, and not just predicting when material things are going to come in our life, because astrology really, even though I just told you about the financial course, right? It does help you with that, right? And so that's why I'm doing the financial course, but there's always something deeper that's there too. What's that thing that's deeper? That thing that's deeper is, if you're secure inside of yourself and you're steady inside of yourself, then financial ups and downs don't affect you. And that's something that we can learn on the financial astrology course too. So pleasant and unpleasant are really just a matter of a point of view. For somebody who's got a strong Mars, they might be going through a challenge, but they absolutely love it, right? Because they're very Mars oriented. That's who they are. Okay, so somebody who has a very strong Saturn, they might really enjoy being very disciplined and doing things like that. So we can't always go by this benefic malefic concept, or good or bad, or is this going to create good effects or bad effects. Pleasant or unpleasant is a matter of perspective. As a matter of fact, if you begin working with Jaimini astrology, what you find is that Jaimini shows concrete events, how challenging those concrete events are. But then if you go and you look at that same event in Vimshotri Dasha, it might show a very good relationship with it. Does that mean that one's right and the other's wrong? No. It means something was challenging to create, but the individual really enjoys it. So it's never as simple of a case of pleasant and unpleasant. It's usually several different shades of technicolor, multicolored things dabbled on a palette, all mixed together. Okay, if that makes sense. All right. Let's see what else we've got here. Okay. I'm only here for 10 minutes, so I'm looking for things that I can answer pretty simply so I can make it through as many questions as possible. So all of you people who are asking these very complex questions, are not complex, just lots of different factors involved in them, because most of them are pretty simple questions, but it's just that there's so many different factors, and I want to be able to answer as many questions of people as possible. Does superimposing divisional charts on the D1 chart work? I haven't really done much work with that. I tend to go into several different Vargas and don't really, from my own perspective, have a need to superimpose the Varga over the Rashi chart because I'm able to find the same information in another way. So, yeah, that's probably the clearest way I can say that. But you do find that there are generally interactions between the Varga charts, and I could try to explain that briefly. So, for instance, if you have a well-rectified birth time and your Shastyamsha is going to be precise, the Shastyamsha deity of a planet, how that affects that particular planet. And I'm talking about symbolic meaning, not just is it a malefic Shastyamsha deity or a benefic Shastyamsha deity. I'm talking about what it actually means, like Purishaka means rubble, or can make somebody feel humble or like dirt. Then you might find that that planet's associations in the Rashi chart tend to take on that tone, even though we're looking at the Rashi chart and the Shastyamsha chart. So on that level, perhaps I superimpose them, but I don't go, let's concretely take this Varga chart and superimpose it on the Rashi chart and see where things end up, because I just find it easier to do it the other way. Okay? All right. So it's not that it doesn't work. It's just I've never really felt a need to do it. Let's see what we've got. I'm having to scroll up a bit, so people can feel free to ask some more questions. Somebody's saying, do I work with Chara or Chara Navamsha Dasha? I work with Chara Navamsha Dasha. I find it to be better. But everybody calculates different things differently with Jaimini, because Jaimini kind of wanted to confuse all of us. Not really. He wanted us to kind of go and really read over his teachings and understand them. And so he wrote things in code so that they weren't so simple to figure out. That's why different people approach Jaimini in different ways. Okay, I'm sorry I'm quiet, people. I'm just kind of scrolling up to see some of your questions. I want to, I say this in every particular session that I do like this. Um, you have to learn how to qualify yogas by working with Ishta and Kashtapala, Shubha and Ashubha Phala. And as well as that, you have to learn how to use Digbala and mix all of those factors together. That's going to really help you to judge yogas, because really people get really interested in yogas, and I understand why. They're really a good teaching tool. They're a good teaching tool. They help us to learn astrology, but they don't always bear their fruit. And the reason that they may not bear their fruit, or let's say, for instance, you've got a yoga that has both good and difficult connotations, if that planet does more harm in the horoscope than it does good, it's going to yield more of those difficult connotations. And so then the individual gets disappointed because they've recognized something about their horoscope that they thought was going to make them wealthy, because somebody was talking about a Dana yoga. Okay, so since you're talking about your Dana yogas, let's also talk about this. If you want to learn, if you have the potential to be wealthy, or if you have the potential to live an abundant life, or even to learn when the abundant times in your life are and when the more difficult times in your life are, you can take my webinar that I'm starting in an hour that will teach you just that. It's a financial astrology webinar course. Again, I'm going to put the link in the window. You have to register soon. It's $108 for 2 to 4 weeks, dependent upon how quickly it takes us to get through the syllabus. And if you want to, you can submit your chart on that course. And if you're agreeable to us using it as an example, you can do so. But if you want to register, you got to do so soon, because I've got an hour to send people the link to get to the course. Okay. Right. So that's the best way to learn about wealth in your horoscope, is by learning how to judge it in a horoscope. And it's not just based upon yogas. The Kavadamsha chart, which is the D40, can be an important chart, but you need to have a well-rectified birth time. Again, fourth house is very vital in that particular horoscope. That's the critical house in the D40, also the well-being of the moon. And it's a good chart for seeing when the auspicious and inauspicious things are going to come into being. I like using it if I'm looking at somebody's horoscope and I can see they're having a tough go of things. I like to go look at that and see if I can see when something good and enjoyable for them. And see, I use that good word too, is coming, so that they can enjoy that. So that's the importance of it. All right, let's see what other questions we have here. I've got 5 more minutes. So somebody asked something about Pluto. I'm not going to go specifically into that question. One of the things I'm going to say is I hardly find a need to use Pluto or Uranus or Neptune, because if you work with Rahu and Ketu really well, if you know how to work with them, you find that you don't really have a need to go into Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune. And you end up finding out, at least I have, that the information they provide is really more extraneous rather than helpful, because it just kind of tells you the same thing that you saw through your nodes, or at least that's what I tend to get out of it. Okay. Let's see some other questions here. Well, somebody said we don't really work with Pluto in Vedic astrology. Actually, a lot of astrologers do, but I just find myself not really needing to do so. Going to take one more question, I think. So if somebody wants to be a candidate for the next and last question, please feel free to pop it in the window. So somebody's asking, if a planet is debilitated in the D60 chart but strong in D27, what is the effect? Okay, so let's explain what the D60 does. It sets the limit on a certain level for all the other charts. It kind of sets the ceiling. So for instance, if you have a strong planet in the Rashi chart, or as you're saying in the D27 chart, but in the Shastyamsha, it's debilitated, then that planet is only going to be so strong. It's going to kind of be like a mediocre planet, right? But on the same instance, if you have difficult planets elsewhere in the chart, like a debilitated planet in the D27, and that planet's exalted in the Shastyamsha, then the debilitation is not going to be quite as bad. Right? Now, that's just a simple answer. There are so many other things that have to be taken into consideration in order to figure those things out. Okay? So one final reminder, if you want to take part in the Financial Astrology webinar course, it's going to start in about 45 minutes. You would need to go to the link that I'm going to put in the video here where you can register. There we go. I've pressed the enter button. And you can register for $108. It's a 2 to 3 or 4 week webinar course. If we finish the course in 2 weeks, then that's good. I have a feeling it'll probably be 3 because I like to go into detail. So I always tell people that. And it's at 4:30 p.m. London time. It's 3:45 now. So if you want to register for the course, you need to do so. Registration fees are $108 for the entire course. You get every video for the course for that fee so that you can go back and review. You get all the PowerPoints for your notes so you can go back and review those as well. And you get membership to my astrological forum where you can ask questions in between classes. Okay, so if you want to take part, you need to go register now. Thanks everybody for coming here, and thanks for watching. And I'm going to talk to all of you the next time, unless I see you on my course in a little bit. Bye now.